Welcome to A Slice of Therapy. This podcast was created with Anchor. And if you've not heard of Anchor, let me explain. It's free. It's a really easy way to make a podcast. And it helps me because I can just do this every day directly into my phone, because there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. So if you fancy making a podcast too, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. You know, the really fascinating thing about us human beings is that we're all experiencing the same world, and yet we all experience it completely differently because it is passing through the filter of our own history, our own experiences, and that filter changes what it is we see, changes how we're interacting with the world. Because that filter is made up of the various beliefs that we've gathered over the years, based on the lives that we've led, the things that have happened to us, the things that we've experienced, the histories we've lived through, will leave us with a set of beliefs about who we are, how the world works, how other people relate to us, what life is like. And so when we're engaging with the world, or when we're engaging with reality, it's actually a kind of a co-creation, because everything out there that we're experiencing is being filtered through our own belief systems, through this filter. And what we end up with is kind of like a concoction, I suppose, between the world and between us. Much like when you read a book. You know, have you ever read a book and different people will take different things from it because certain ideas in the book will stick to a particular thing that's significant to maybe something you've read in the past or experienced in the past. And so even though an author writes a book, the full experience of the book is always a co-creation between the author and the reader. What the author was actually saying and what the reader takes from it, and how the reader gets those ideas from the book and kind of plugs them together with things that they already know and believe. And so just like reading a book is a co-creation with the author, that's kind of what the world is like as well, because we'll experience in the world in such a way that it'll stick to certain things that we already know or think we know or believe or whatever. It will attach to certain experiences, I suppose. It'll attach to our lens, to our filter. And the thing about that is that sometimes what will happen then is that our filter will actually change the extent to which we interact with the world. So the way we actually think of life and ourselves and the world, the beliefs that we have, will actually change the extent to how we interact with the world. Now, if I truly believed, for instance, that switching on my television set was going to bring about the end of civilization just in the press of that one button, I would never press that button. I would never ever use my television set. It would just be there. I might even get rid of it, or I might keep it here for safekeeping. So what we believe in will actually impact how we interact with the world, will actually change the boundary, I suppose, of our lives. What I believe about me will actually limit my experience of the world, or maybe even enhance my experience of the world, depending on what the belief is. And so in this episode, I've got a nice little exercise where you can very quickly get a handle on some of the beliefs that you have, which may not actually be true. Because that's the thing about these beliefs, they're stories, aren't they? They're not necessarily reality. And they're often formed under the particular pressures of things that we've lived through. And so sometimes our belief is this thing that happened then, this is the way that we get through it. And this is a good idea to believe this in order to get through that. And then, of course, we grow up and our circumstances change. And that belief can start to limit us in the way that once it actually helped us through. So the exercise in terms of finding out quite quickly what are the beliefs that we hold and what are the beliefs that you hold that may well not actually be true is to ask some of the people who are closest to you, people that you trust, people who know you well, and just ask them that question. What are the things that I say about myself that from your perspective aren't true? So I don't know, I might say, my problem is that I'm really stupid. And a friend might say, well, you're not really stupid. So that would be one of those things, wouldn't it, as an example, where we have a belief about ourselves. There's something that we say about ourselves. That if we were to ask a friend, what are the things that I say about myself that simply isn't true, they might say that one in this particular example. And so by asking those people who know us well and who we trust and who are close to us, what are the things that I say about myself? What are the things I say about how the world works? What are the things I say about life that aren't true? And when I talk about the way the world works, I'm not talking about anything socio-political or anything like that that can get you into an argument. I'm really talking about how you interact with the world. So an example might be, I don't know, the world always gives me a bad hand, or other people in the world don't like me. These are the kind of things I'm thinking of. And so when you ask a friend, they might say, yeah, you always say that other people don't like you, but from where I'm standing, and when I hear people talking about you, they really value you highly. And so by asking the people closest to you, who you know and trust, what are the things that you say about yourself and life and others that just don't ring true? You'll start to get a handle on what your own limiting beliefs are. And so it's a nice, quick exercise that just gets you in touch from somebody else's perspective. Now, of course, the other person might not be necessarily the font of all knowledge and truth. And so you don't have to take everything they say on gospel if it doesn't land. But it will give an insight from the perspective of those who know you the best, who you trust, who you're closest to, of all those things that you say about yourself, especially the ways in which you put yourself down and limit yourself, which actually, even though you see it as truth and reality, they look at it and say, that's not true about you. You say that, but actually, here's the reality that I see. And that distance and that perspective can be really, really helpful as a nice shortcut to find out what some of those limiting beliefs are. So that's the exercise, if you'd like to try it, is just to ask people, what do I say about myself that isn't true? What do I say about life and others and how they interact with me that isn't true, and see what answers you get back. It can be a really insightful exercise. So if you like that idea, please pass it on to someone else by sharing this episode. It always helps. And if you'd like to work with me, I'm Alun Parry. You can find out more about me at liverpoolpsychotherapy.co.uk. And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, it's completely free. It's also free to watch these as YouTube videos. Just go to asliceoftherapy.com. So thanks for listening. I'll be back again tomorrow with another one.